so after we got doing a couple $100,000 a month, squeegeeing dirt off people's glass, had everything system, automated myself out of that little company, I got really excited about it. And I went on these internet forums. Remember before Facebook group, there was forums, anybody?
Oh, yeah.
And people are really mean to each other on the internet, you know? And so I started just teaching people the stuff that I had done. And people were mean to me, and there was haters and all this stuff. There was no courses, no information product. I had no content. I didn't understand any of that. I'm just like, do it like this, not like that. Do this, then do this. Because sometimes it's not just about having the right systems, but it's about doing the right things in the right order. And some of us are just doing things backwards on accident. So I started building a reputation on this forum. And so the principle in this, by the way, because this turned into a massive tribe that did, you know, multiple 8 figures through a variety of companies later, was you lead with value. Duh, right? Give, 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 or Gary Vee's jab, 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 right hook. I was just serving and giving every day, and I get on the phone. It got to the point with all these other blue-collar entrepreneurs, is what we call them, where they started calling my offices. Then they called my office once a week. Then it was once a day. Then it was 5 times a day. Then it was 10 times a day. Because of all this value, they had questions. I was scratching an itch and serving people. So I kind of accidentally built a tribe through just genuinely trying to help these people not suffer like we did, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then that leads to Josh exiting that business for a lot of money, and then he restarted it again.
Yeah, well, we sold the company to private equity. We moved to Costa Rica for a couple of years, and I started a software company. And the software company is where I almost went bankrupt, and it's where I earned my master's degree in suffering. Remember, I had bachelor's degree in pain, master's degree in suffering. Software is one of those things that just sounds really magical if you don't have a software company, and it's way harder than you think when you do have a software company. I started selling things to these tribes, but going all the way back to Genesee, Michigan, and getting beat up by bullies and all these things, the thing that slowed us down the most was me, not trusting or believing in myself, not stepping into a new identity fast enough.
Right.
Imposter syndrome's a real thing. At least for me, it is, right? And so when he was talking about his frameworks and identity and all this stuff, how good was that, by the way, with Jim Edwards? That's what I did, but without realizing that's what I did, having faith. But the part I skipped was right before we sold to private equity, my marriage was completely falling apart. And what I had accidentally done was started to make money with my left hand and set my family on fire with my right hand. And so I remember I got hammered drunk, stormed out of the house, drove 100 miles an hour. Luckily, I didn't hurt myself or someone else. And I'm looking at apartments, and we were done. And I had probably the biggest epiphany that shaped the rest of our whole career, which is families are successful for the same reason businesses are, which is systems, which sounds robotic, but it's not robotic. I said, the reason my little silly cleaning business was doing $50,000 a week squeegeeing stuff, and I didn't even have to touch it, was because I knew how to cast vision. I knew how to set a target. I knew how to hire, train, retain, and ascend employees inside of a system, right? I knew we had core values, we had a mission statement, we had communication, and there's cadences, and there's energy and life over in this thing. And then at home, there wasn't.
Right.
So it wasn't like mysterious. So we started installing family systems in our family. We have 5 kids, so expert kid maker. If you need any tips, you can see me after. It's all in the hips. No, just kidding. But we started doing things like, date night. Duh. Some of the men entrepreneurs in here will literally tell other people that everything you do is for your family while simultaneously absolutely, not even remotely living like that's true. And it's not on purpose, but it happens. So non-negotiable date night, and then doing one-on-ones with my kids, Maverick Monday and Tucker Tuesday and Sawyer Sunday and Judah May Thursday and Finley Friday. We have too many kids, right? But these systems, casting vision. We have a logo for our family. We have core values for our family. Because
anybody have his war plan for their kids? Anybody get the war plan? It was awesome, isn't it? Really cool. Yeah.
And we never intended to share any of that with anybody else. We were doing this to solve our own problem, building these family systems, right? But it helped us fall in love with entrepreneur families. Yeah. And so the rest of the story with software and coaching companies and several more exits and stuff is us trying to serve and run towards serving entrepreneur families, because we believe they're the most important people in the world.
Yeah.
You know, they're the job creators, the movement makers, the world changers. They're the producers. That's what they do. And everything that we build is to serve them.
So gold nugget here for you is that Josh was able to go from here, then all of a sudden what happened? Blew up what? Relationship, right? So he had to become a new attractive character over here. Some of the same software systems, but had to step into the role of what? Being dad and recreating that. We cannot be afraid, you guys, to live in different worlds. We don't, Spider-Man does not have to be Spider-Man 24 hours a day. He can be Peter Parker. Okay, so that's what Josh just showed here. Now, I just want 2 more quick things if you're good with it. You good with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this was something that, for me, that was a big deal. So a lot of you know, once again, I go back to the style and the dress thing. And I take it maybe a little too serious sometimes when I see people and I'm like, man, I know it could make a big difference in their life. Well, Josh and I were sitting there talking about it, and Josh is one of the bluntest, if you haven't seen, guys that there is out there. But he's very analytical. He's not, this guy's a bright guy. And so we were sitting there talking one night upstairs in his house, and he just goes right at it. I think style it's just not needed. And I was like, Josh. And he goes, no, Bar, like, seriously, like, I love you as a brother. I think you're amazing, but this is a little wackadoodle. People pay you to dress them. And I was like, wackadoodle, that's a good word, isn't it?
Yeah,
I like that word. I like that word. That was funny, you guys. You can laugh. Thanks. Anyway, so we're sitting there talking about it, and Josh goes, well, all right then, prove it to me style's worth it. He called me out right there. His amazing wife was sitting there. Remember this, Ashlee? Yeah. Yeah. Then Josh goes, fine, takes his phone out, plops it down, hits record, and I'm like, damn, I'm being called out at my buddy's house. No preparation on this. Wasn't like I could go create slides, think about it, even for 5 seconds.
Nope.
And it was just go time. And so we had a long talk. How long do you think that recording was? Was it an hour?
It was close to an hour, yeah.
Close to an hour. We got done with that conversation. It was intense. It was awesome. One of my favorite but it was intense. Mm-hmm. We got done with that. And here's the thing that was amazing about that. And I kind of want Josh's opinion after I get done telling you this story a little bit. Then he's going to jump in and tell you his version of it. So I went to bed that night tiny bit stressed. I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh, man, like, did I get everything across? Did it make sense? You know, all the things you do. So I had a lot of imposter syndrome, right? Because I look up to you a lot. And so went to bed that night. We get up. I can't remember what we had going, but we didn't see each other for a while. But we were meeting that night.
I think you were going to meet with Tyson or something, probably.
I think that's actually what it was. Now you say that. I was going to see Tyson. So we were going to meet that night for dinner. And Sonny and I were like, it was a nice place where we were going to eat. Anyway, so we show up, Sonny and I show up, and all of a sudden Josh is dressed in his Gucci shoes. I mean, totally changed his style. He had a jacket on. I mean, he looked amazing. So did Ashlee. And I was like, what do you say then, right? You know, all of a sudden, action takers are what? Money makers. We spent all this time, and then all of a sudden I was like
the next day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Literally the next day. Like there wasn't even 24 hours that had passed, and Josh had already put this into motion, right? And I was like, whoa, this is incredible. So I said, Josh, he goes, dude, it just changed. I wanted to step into this. And I was like, and once again, I told you, I was vulnerable yesterday, right? Well, why I didn't keep going. And Josh's like, you really need to do something with this. Like nobody teaches this. And I was like, thanks. So anyway, we went to dinner that night, had further discussion. But how did that affect you? How did that conversation, like first and foremost, called me out and then went through it? So I want to hear yours. I've never heard your version of this and why you took such amazing action on it.
What you said that day was irrefutably true, so I had to adopt it and accept it.
Why?
So for me personally, I value knowledge above other things. My wife values feelings.
Anybody in here analytical?
So like knowledge is really important to me. And so I also think it's important that all of us should be able to defend why we believe what we believe in any category. People just say they believe stuff and they don't know why. I wasn't, I just accidentally am like this all the time, like Rain Man over here or something. So Bart's talking about fashion. I'm like, I think that's dumb because it bothers me on the one hand that it matters. Now, I just don't like it. Like, I don't get starstruck by celebrities or musicians or anything. I get starstruck by very, very smart people, and I don't care what they're wearing at all. I don't, personally. But what I realized after he kind of unpacked this, and it was truly epiphanizing. I mean, it was like, holy crap, oh my God, that's true. What I realized was it was true. So you have two choices. You either, live in an alternative reality or acknowledge that it matters a lot. And what I've come to realize is that who people think the messenger is more important than the message, okay? And here's what I mean by that. If Gary Vee tweets never give up and it gets 100,000 shares, there's nothing amazing about the phrase we've heard 100,000 times, never give up, right? And if you tweet it, your grandma likes it and your mom likes it. Same message, different outcomes. Why? Because the frame of who people believe you are before they even engage with you is an insane multiplier. It's just how it works, right? And so you can see that. So I also realized that I felt very, very, very uncomfortable buying fancy things because of that childhood programming. I could buy fancy things, and so I did it as a thought experiment to evolve into a new version of myself, and we spent thousands of dollars on stuff. The next morning, I think I have my Louis belt on right now.
Yeah,
but
you have it on. Awesome.
And I don't really care about the luxury brands per se, but it's important to step outside your comfort zone. If something makes you nervous, it's actually a clue. You should probably lean into it, right? And so I'm an extreme introvert. I'd be happy in an Alaskan cabin, reading books, learning more stuff, pouring into my brain. But because I started building this tribe about these window cleaners and stuff, I started getting a lot of attention. People started asking me to speak and to keynote, and I wanted to throw up. Public speaking was paralyzingly crippling to me originally. I told Ashlee in Costa Rica, we lived there for 2 years, I said, I'm going to say yes every single time I get asked to speak for a minimum of 2 years. You remember that, Ash? I didn't want to do it at all. And I'd always be a big baby like the day before I had to leave, right? Why did I do this? This is stupid. I don't have time for it, And then I go do it anyway, want to throw up in the bathroom, and I kept doing it. I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. I had a special watch that I would wear. It was a totem, like Bart talked about yesterday. I actually had a watch I only wore when I spoke on stage so I could become the guy that can speak on stage. And I don't know when it happens. I don't think you can, but I just don't feel any of those feelings anymore when I speak. And I speak to bigger and bigger audiences all the time. We host our own events, right? Because you become more. But this whole identity thing and the fashion stuff you talked about, I think there's multiple benefits of an alter ego. Like, because our mission is to equip entrepreneur families to become radically generous so they can engineer a family culture that changes the world. That's like our mission. That's why my wife stood up and was like, I'll give you money, Victoria. We're driven by feeding orphans and widows, and that's our thing. So we have a mission, but then we also have these alter egos that we have to learn how to step into. It's a huge piece of leverage to do it. And it feels weird and it feels silly, but it's leverage. And what I mean by leverage, sorry, I'm rambling, is
You're good.
Archimedes said, if you give me a lever long enough, I can move the world, right? Who people believe that you are is leverage. And the way that you show up and present yourself is a form of overlooked leverage. Even when it comes to networking, it's easier. I also bought a Corvette this year in honor of my pizza delivery guy that had the Corvette. And the license plate says War Plan on it. We're going to use it for giveaways or something. But it's so, on the one hand, I feel embarrassed that it matters, but it just does. And that's not even an expensive car. That's the poor man's supercar, right? But the point is that all these perceived things move needles in terms of meeting people, leverage, the way you hire staff, the way you recruit talent, the authority you can show up with on stage. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you watched, click the video on the left to watch the previous upload. And if you want one of my personal favorites, click the video on the right. And of course, don't forget to hit the middle to subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thank you again for being on this journey with me.